Know your place. Boy. The words slice the air like a whip, just before Officer Reeves's palm crashes across the black man's face, a thunderclap in the courtroom's dead hush. The sound ricochets off marble walls, leaving silence that stings harder than the slap. A red welt blooms instantly on his cheek. Blood rushes hot beneath the skin, but the man doesn't flinch. He stands there, dignified, shoulders squared, his jaw tight like stone. Reeves looms over him, aviator sunglasses hiding those predator eyes, steam curling from the officer's coffee cup between them like smoke from a battlefield. Defense tables are for real lawyers, not janitors, Reeves sneers, his voice dripping with contempt as he sweeps the briefcase off the table. The crash explodes like gunfire. Legal documents scatter, fluttering like wounded birds. Court files spin across polished floors. A worn family photo slides under a bench, its frame cracked. The black man's fingers tremble, just slightly only for a heartbeat. Then he takes a single breath, deep, steady, controlled fire behind calm eyes. "Pick that up," Reeves growls, his tone sinking to something darker, more dangerous. The gallery is frozen. The bailiff's hand hovers near his radio. The clerk covers her mouth to choke back a gasp. The silence is electric-like. The whole room knows the next move could light a fuse. The man rises, slowly, every motion deliberate. He adjusts his tie with the composure of a man not broken, but building. Then, instead of stooping to the floor, he walks not to the gallery, but straight to the judge's bench. Every head in the courtroom swivels. You could hear hearts pounding. He climbs the steps, unshaken, and extends his hand toward the judge's gavel. Meanwhile, Officer James Reeves pushes through the courthouse security checkpoint with the same arrogance he's carried for 2 decades. His badge flashes like a shark fin slicing through water, parting the sea of civilians. His footsteps strike the marble floor with military precision, every echo a reminder of his dominance. Sunlight streams through tall windows, catching dust in golden halos, but Reeves doesn't notice beauty. He notices control, authority, respect. Other officers nod as he passes, deferential, like priests bowing to a king. Reeves nods back, smug. His arrest record is legend 3 years straight, highest in the precinct. To him, that's not just a number. It's proof the streets are his kingdom. He checks his watch, 30 minutes before testimony. Plenty of time. At the coffee cart, he spots District Attorney Sarah Miller, flipping through a leather portfolio. "Morning, Sarah." Reeves snatches a cup without paying, pours, and sips like the courthouse itself owes him. Ready to lock up another dealer? Her professional smile strains tight. It's possession, not distribution, James. And Judge Thompson is presiding. Thompson. Reeves arches a brow behind the glasses. Never heard of him. Transferred from the Eastern Circuit, she says carefully. Reputation for being extremely thorough with police testimony. Reeves smirks. Thorough. He takes another long sip. Cute. Reeves lets out a dismissive scoff, a sound halfway between arrogance and boredom. As long as the man knows which end of the gavel to use, we're good. My testimony's bulletproof. District Attorney Sarah Miller doesn't bite. Her voice lowers, sharp as glass. Just keep it professional, James. Judge Thompson doesn't appreciate theatrics. Meanwhile, in a quiet corridor, Judge William Thompson pores over case files. At 52, his salt and pepper hair is cropped military neat, his glasses perched low. 2 decades as a prosecutor, 5 years on the bench. Transferred here after whispers of dirty policing practices in the district, the kind of whispers he listens to carefully. He closes the file, slips off his glasses, and straightens his modest but sharp gray suit. No robes yet. He prefers it that way. When he walks into a courtroom, he wants to see people's true faces before they bow to the title. Calls it his civilian walkthrough, carrying his briefcase. Thompson steps into courtroom 7B through the public entrance. The bailiff barely glances up. 2 uniformed officers by the door share a low laugh as he passes, the kind of laugh meant to sting. He doesn't catch the words, but he catches the look. He always catches the look. He files it away. A mental note. Behavior matters as much as testimony. Across the room, Reeves finally spots him. At first, Reeves doesn't see a judge. He sees a man at the defense table. A black man. His upright posture, shoulders squared, calm, but confident in a way that scratches at Reeves's nerves. His suit isn't flashy, no silk tie or expensive watch, but it carries quiet dignity. Not a janitor, not a defendant, and not someone easily put in a box. Reeves's irritation spikes. "Court starts in 15, he announces to the room, voice booming like he owns the walls. He strides toward the defense table. Defendant's table should be clear for attorneys. Thompson doesn't even look up from his papers. "I'm aware of the schedule. Thank you." The air shifts. Reeves steps in closer, shadow spilling across the judge's documents like a threat. "You're not hearing me? It's areas for authorized personnel only." At last, Thompson raises his eyes. His voice is measured. Steady. "I am authorized to be here." Reeves's jaw tightens. The sunglasses hide his eyes, but his tone makes his contempt plain. "Let me see some ID then." "I don't believe that's necessary." Sarah Miller approaches quickly, her heels tapping like alarm bells. "James, we should prepare 1 second, Sarah." Reeves cuts her off without breaking his stare. He holds up a hand, dismissive, like she's background noise, just making sure everyone's where they belong. He leans in closer to Thompson, the smug grin curling.
"Last chance, buddy."
"Move to the gallery or show me credentials." Thompson rises to his full height. He doesn't shout, doesn't blink, doesn't move back an inch. "Officer, I suggest you focus on your testimony rather than courtroom seating arrangements." "How do you know I'm an officer?" Reeves's hand twitches toward his holster, instinct kicking in like muscle memory. Thompson's reply is even, steady, almost surgical. "Your badge is visible. And you carry yourself with the unfortunate arrogance I've seen in too many officers." Sarah draws in a sharp breath. "James, let's go. Now." But Reeves doesn't move. Steps in closer, so close, their breaths mingle eyes, hidden behind those mirrored shades. "You got something against law enforcement, friend?" Thompson doesn't blink. "I have something against anyone who misuses authority." The air between them crackles like live wire. Attorneys filtering in slow their steps, caught by the gravity of the standoff. The court clerk slips back out, whispering frantically to the bailiff outside. "You know what? I don't have time for this," Reeves mutters. His hand darts down, snatching Thompson's briefcase. He yanks hard, the latch gives way.
"S."
Papers explode outward. Legal briefs scatter. Case notes fan across polished wood. And among them, a simple, framed family photo tumbles free, clattering face down. "James," Sarah hisses, horrified. "Stop this right now." But Reeves is beyond stopping. He smirks, using his boot to grind the papers outward across the floor. "Court documents? Scoffs? Sure, and I'm the Attorney General." His foot hooks the photo and kicks it skidding under a bench. The doors swing open wider. Attorneys and spectators pour in, but the usual hum of chatter dies instantly. The scene is too strange, too ugly. A courtroom turned into a stage for humiliation. "Pick those up." Reeves points at the scattered papers like a master ordering a servant. Thompson doesn't move. Reeves laughs, sharp and disbelieving. No, you don't get to say no to me." He steps closer, lowering his voice until it's almost a growl. "I said pick them up." The bailiff approaches cautiously. "Officer Reeves, perhaps stay out of this?" Reeves snaps, not breaking his stare from Thompson. This man needs to learn respect for proper procedure. Thompson's voice stays calm, though his jaw tightens. "What you're doing has nothing to do with procedure. Kneel down and pick up your mess," Reeves demands, raising his voice for the whole room to hear. The crowd ripples with discomfort. Someone gasps. In the back, a woman discreetly lifts her phone, recording. "I will not," Thompson answers. And then it happens. Reeves moves fast, hand gripping Thompson's shoulder, shoving down with brute force. "I said kneel." Gasps explode. A man mutters, "Jesus Christ." Thompson resists, but Reeves bears down harder, forcing him onto one knee. The sound of struggle fills the courtroom, the squeak of shoes on tile, the scrape of a chair shoved aside. "There we go." Reeves's tone drips with satisfaction. "Collect your things and get out of my courtroom, James." Sarah cries, her composure shattering. "For God's sake, what are you doing?" Reeves gestures sharply at Thompson, still pinning him. He's disrespecting the court. I'm just doing my job. Thompson, grimacing, moves slowly, deliberately toward his jacket pocket. His voice is steady even through pain. I'm reaching for my identification. Reeves clamps his wrist instantly, twisting it hard. Thompson's face flickers with pain. Hands where I can see them, Reeves barks. Sure you are, he sneers. With a practiced move, Reeves jerks Thompson's arm behind his back. Maybe a night in lockup will fix that attitude. The bailiff steps forward, urgency finally overtaking hesitation. Officer, I don't think, cuff him. Reeves's order cuts like a blade. He maintains his grip, voice loud and final. Obstruction of justice, resisting an officer. The bailiff freezes, torn, his eyes darting between Thompson's calm dignity and Reeves's bulldozing fury. The silence that follows is suffocating, the kind that coils right before a gunshot. And then, from the back of the courtroom, a voice cuts clean through the tension. Firm, authoritative, impossible to ignore. What time is it, Mr. Williams? The court clerk. Mr. Williams. The clerk jerks at the sound of his name, fumbling for his watch. His voice wavers as he announces, 9:17, Your Honor. The words hang in the air like a signal flare. Every head whips toward the judicial entrance. There stands Chief Judge Ella Foster Silver, hair like steel, black robes flowing, her face carved from granite. Authority radiates from her presence, every wrinkle a ledger of years demanding order and justice. Her voice slices the silence. Release that man immediately, officer. Reeves freezes, caught in the spotlight of her command. The hesitation is brief, but deadly obvious. Finally, he lets go, stepping back like a schoolyard bully yanked from his victim. Judge Foster, he stammers, scrambling for ground. This individual was that individual. Foster interrupts, each syllable a hammer blow, is Judge William Thompson. He is presiding over this case. Not one word wasted, not one glance toward the officer who tried to break him. His silence is louder than accusation. Your Honor, Foster addresses him gently. Do you require a recess? Thompson shakes his head once. Calm, controlled. That won't be necessary, Chief Judge. Thank you, Foster. Nods firmly. Very well. I expect a full report on this incident. With that, she sweeps out, leaving a silence that weighs like stone. Thompson gestures to the bailiff. 10-minute recess. Officer Reeves will remain in the courtroom. His voice is measured steel. In chambers. Thompson lowers into his chair. At last, the tremor sneaks into his hands. He presses his palms against the desk, inhaling deeply until his breath steadies. The tick of the wall clock echoes like a metronome for his pulse. Finally, he lifts the phone. Gerald, it's Will. I need you to pull some files from my everything you can find on Officer James Reeves. Priority access, yes, from our district. His tone is even, but the current of adrenaline runs beneath every word. A knock. The bailiff steps in. Your Honor, are you all right? Should I? I'm fine, thank you. Thompson cuts him gently, then adds, but I want internal affairs contacted quietly. Have them pull every arrest Reeves made in the past 5 years, especially cases involving minority suspects. The bailiff nods firmly. Right away, sir. And one more thing, Thompson says, voice lowering. Courthouse security footage from today. Preserve all of it. Alone again, he opens his laptop, typing a measured email to the Judicial Review Board. Not a formal complaint yet, it's just a flag. A warning flare in the darkness. He crosses to the closet, retrieving his robe. The fabric slides over his shoulders, heavy with duty, steadying his hands. He faces the small mirror. The man who looked into Reeves's contemptuous eyes now stares back, cloaked in authority. This isn't about you, Will, he whispers to his reflection. It's about everyone who couldn't fight back. Collar straightened, vow renewed. As he reaches for the chamber door, his phone buzzes. A text. Found complaints against Reeves. You're not the first. Back in the courtroom, the atmosphere changes the moment Thompson enters in full judicial regalia. Conversations die. The air itself tightens. He takes his seat at the bench, Authority radiates from him, not forced, but earned. Court is now in session. His voice rings with clarity. No trace of the humiliation inflicted minutes ago. State of Westlake versus Morris. Possession with intent to distribute. He proceeds seamlessly, addressing motions and procedural matters with steady command. But across the room, Officer Reeves shifts uncomfortably at the prosecution table. Sweat glistens at his temples. Sarah Miller leans close, whispering urgently, but his eyes keep darting toward the bench and flinching away. The hunter for once looks hunted. When the time for testimony arrives, Judge Thompson fixes his eyes on Reeves' steady, piercing, unblinking. Officer, you are sworn to tell the truth in this courtroom. You understand this obligation? Reeves clears his throat, shifting slightly in the witness chair. Yes, Your Honor. Proceed with your testimony regarding the defendant's arrest. Reeves launches into his account how he stopped the car, how drugs were supposedly discovered. At first, his voice carries its usual bravado, but under Thompson's unbroken gaze, the edges fray. His rhythm falters. His sentences shrink. What was the reason for the stop? Thompson asks, pen scratching notes with surgical precision.
A broken taillight, Your Honor.
Was the dash camera operational during this stop? Reeves pauses, just long enough for the silence to speak. There was. An equipment malfunction that day. Thompson's eyebrow lifts a fraction. Interesting. He writes the word on his notepad with deliberate weight, and your body camera. Also malfunctioning, sir? Beat. Reeves swallows. Both failed. Both cameras failed simultaneously. Thompson's voice stays even, but his eyes narrow, sharp as a scalpel. Across the room, the defense attorney straightens, suddenly sensing blood in the water. Reeves tries to claw back ground. It happens more than you'd think. His tone hardens, a flicker of defiance.
Oh.
Thompson shifts his attention. Counsel, your cross-examination. The defense attorney rises, emboldened. Officer Reeves, how many of your recent arrests involved? Camera malfunctions? Objection? Sarah Miller snaps. Relevance goes to pattern and credibility. Your Honor, the defense counters smoothly. Thompson leans back, weighing, then decisive. Overruled. The officer will answer. Reeves's jaw locks. I don't keep track of equipment issues. The defense attorney smirks, lifts a document. Let me rephrase. How many of your arrests of minority suspects involved camera malfunctions? The defendant, a young black man at the defense table, stares at Reeves with laser focus. For the first time since his arrest, a flicker of hope crosses his face. Your Honor. Sarah Miller shoots to her feet, panic in her eyes. May we approach the bench? At the bench, her voice drops to a tense whisper. Judge Thompson, the defense is fishing for a racial bias angle without foundation. Thompson regards her, eyes steady. Miss Miller, are you suggesting that questioning the reliability of police equipment during arrests is inappropriate? No, Your Honor, but the implication here is that Officer Reeves specifically targets minorities. I've made no such implication. Thompson cuts in cleanly, his voice like tempered steel. I am simply allowing relevant questioning about evidence collection. Before Sarah can reply, Reeves barges forward, uninvited. His voice is sharp, defensive, loud enough for the jury to hear. This is a straightforward drug case being turned into a circus. Thompson's gaze cuts to Reeves like a blade. Officer, you will approach the bench only when called, not before. Return to your seat. With all due respect, Your Honor, Reeves fires back. Unmoving, I've testified in hundreds of cases. This line of questioning is harassment. A ripple of unease spreads through the courtroom. Thompson's jaw tightens, barely perceptible, but deadly. Officer Reeves, he says, voice low and even. Step back immediately or face contempt charges. For 3 long, heavy seconds, Reeves refuses to budge. Me's shoulders square, jaw clenched, eyes burning with defiance. Then slowly, he backs away, muttering something under his breath. Thompson's eyes narrow. What was that, officer? Nothing, Your Honor? Speak clearly for the record, if you have something to add. Reeves lifts his chin, stares directly at Thompson. I said this feels personal, Your Honor. The gallery stirs, gasps, murmurs. Even the court reporter freezes for half a second, fingers hovering over the keys. Thompson leans forward, his words striking with the weight of a gavel. Justice is always personal, officer, to the accused, to the victim, to society. What it must never be. is prejudiced. The silence that follows is electric. Thompson turns to the defense. Continue your cross-examination. The defense attorney steps forward, voice steady but charged. Officer, are you aware that 78% of your drug arrests over the past 3 years involved Black and Latino suspects, though they make up only 23% of this district's population? Sarah Miller bolts up. Objection. These statistics aren't in evidence, haven't been authenticated. They were submitted during discovery. The defense counters. Thompson examines the report, flipping a page with deliberate care. Objection overruled. The question stands. Officer Reeves answer. A flush creeps up Reeves's neck. I go where the crime is, so you deny any bias in your arrest patterns. I arrest criminals, period. If certain groups commit more crimes, the gallery erupts, gasps, angry whispers. The defendant's mother covers her mouth, tears springing to her eyes. Crack, Thompson's gavel slams down, silencing the storm. Order in the court. The air hums with tension. Every eye returns to Reeves. To clarify my statement, he says stiffly, each word forced through gritted teeth. I enforce the law equally, regardless of race. Thompson studies him, gaze unyielding. Then you should have no objection to the defense examining your arrest record for patterns. My record speaks for itself, Reeves snaps back. Highest conviction rate in the department. Convictions, Thompson replies coldly. Based on evidence obtained through proper procedure, which brings us back to the equipment failures during this arrest, the defense attorney produces another document, sliding it forward like a knife. Your Honor, we've compiled instances where Officer Reeves reported equipment malfunctions. 87% involve minority suspects. Reeves's chair screeches back as he bolts upright. This is character assassination? Sit down, officer, Thompson orders, voice sharp. You're letting them twist statistics to fit a narrative? Reeves protests, fists clenched, refusing to sit. Thompson's voice never rises, but the steel in it reverberates across the room. I am allowing relevant evidence. Final warning, officer. Sit down. Reeves hesitates. Chest heaving, then slams back into his chair, the scrape of wood on tile echoing like defiance. His body language radiates fury, barely contained. Defense may continue, Thompson says, his voice steady but ironclad. The defense attorney steps forward. Officer, in this specific arrest, you searched the defendant's vehicle before even mentioning the alleged broken taillight. Correct? Reeves straightens. It's not how it happened. The attorney signals to an assistant who wheels out a small monitor. Your Honor, with permission, we'd like to play a video. The screen flickers to life. A grainy security feed from a nearby business shows Reeves rifling through the car first, citation pad coming out only afterward. The gallery collectively inhales. Objection, Sarah Miller snaps. This video wasn't in discovery. The department claimed no video existed. We obtained this independently last week. The defense fires back. Thompson studies the timestamp, his brow furrowing. Miss Miller, was the prosecution aware of this footage? Miller hesitates. No, Your Honor. Thompson turns deliberately to Reeves. Officer, you swore under oath that the traffic violation prompted the search. This video suggests otherwise. Reeves glares, nostrils flaring. With all due respect, a distant security camera doesn't show the full context. What context? Thompson asks. Voice slicing through the air, justifies contradicting sworn testimony. The defendant leans forward at the table, hope flickering across his face. Reeves snaps. He shoots to his feet, jabbing a finger at Thompson. You've been gunning for me since I walked in, Officer Reeves. Thompson's tone could freeze stone. You are in contempt. But Reeves barrels forward, veins bulging at his temple. This whole trial is a damn setup. You ambushed me the moment you pretended to be some nobody at the defense table. I never pretended to be anything, Thompson answers evenly. You made assumptions based on what you saw, Reeves sneers. You deliberately misled me by what being black in a courthouse? The words hang in the air like poison. Thompson's calm fractures just slightly. His gavel slams. Bailiff, remove Officer Reeves from my courtroom. The bailiff advances, but Sarah Miller shoots up, panicked. Your Honor, request for a brief recess. Granted, 15 minutes. Thompson rises. Officer Reeves. In my chambers. Now, inside, the storm breaks. Reeves paces like a caged animal, jacket unbuttoned, tie hanging loose. His face burns red, jaw twitching. "You've compromised this entire case," Thompson declares, seated behind his desk, calm as granite. "Me," Reeves barks. "You set me up for public humiliation." Thompson opens a folder, flipping pages with surgical precision. James Reeves, 20 years on the force. 16 excessive force complaints, all dismissed. 92% of your drug arrests, minorities. 43% of your evidence submissions, documentation issues. He looks up. "Did I miss anything?" Reeves stops dead. His eyes narrow. "Where did you get that information?" "I've had it for weeks," Thompson replies coolly. "I'm not just some transfer judge officer. Chair of the Judicial Oversight Committee on Discriminatory Policing Practices. Your name has." I come up repeatedly. The blood drains from Reeves's face. "No, this is a witch hunt. No, this is accountability." Thompson removes his glasses, his gaze unflinching. "Today wasn't planned. I observed courtroom dynamics before sessions. Your behavior confirmed everything your record suggested." A knock interrupts. The bailiff steps in, followed by Chief Judge Foster and Police Commissioner Davis. Judge Thompson Foster says briskly. Commissioner Davis arrived after hearing about this morning's incident. Commissioner Davis, stern in her pressed uniform, fixes Reeves with a cold stare. "Officer, you're suspended pending investigation." "On what grounds?" Reeves spits. Davis doesn't flinch. "Assaulting a judge, for starters. Add perjury, falsifying testimony, evidence tampering based on what surfaced today." "You can't do this," Reeves roars. 20 years of service makes it worse." Davis cuts in, voice like steel. "You should have known better." She turns to Thompson. "Judge, we're reopening a comprehensive review of every one of Reeves's active cases and past convictions." Thompson nods. "The Oversight Committee will cooperate fully, and we'll be examining the supervision chain that let this go unchecked. This goes beyond one officer," Foster adds grimly. "Accountability measures, the accountability measures, the culture itself." Reeves looks between them, realization dawning, desperation creeping in. "What? You're making me the scapegoat for systemic problems." "No," Thompson replies, standing tall, robe catching the light. "You're facing consequences for your actions. The system that enabled you, it will face its own reckoning." He turns to the commissioner, his voice steady, powerful. "This morning, Officer Reeves physically assaulted me in open court. He used racial intimidation tactics. He attempted to humiliate me publicly." The room falls still. Reeves, once untouchable, now stands cornered. "I want formal charges filed," Thompson says firmly. Commissioner Davis nods. "Already in process, Your Honor." Reeves lets out a bitter laugh. "So that's it? 20 years down the drain because you got your feelings hurt?" Thompson replies, eyes hard as granite. 20 years down the drain because you abused your authority over? And overran believed you'd never face consequences. Today, that illusion ends." Davis steps forward, voice clipped. "Officer Reeves, surrender your badge and service weapon to the duty officer downstairs. Report to Internal Affairs tomorrow morning at 0900 hours." Reeves's shoulders sag. The fight bleeds out of him, leaving only a hollow man. "My union rep's been notified," he mutters. "Good," Davis says. "Call your attorney. You're going to need one." As they walk back toward the courtroom, Reeves leans close to Thompson, his whisper sharp with venom. "You have no idea who you're messing with." By afternoon, the courthouse confrontation is everywhere. The leaked security footage spreads like wildfire. Officer Reeves shoving Judge Thompson to his knees. Within hours, #Judge Neil trends nationwide. Cable news runs the clip on a loop. Commentators salivate. Civil rights groups call for action. Politicians scramble for statements. In a cramped conference room, the police union executives gather for emergency triage. The air is thick, too warm, tempers hotter. Union President Taylor slams his pen on the table. "We need to distance ourselves. That video is indefensible." Vice President Harding shoots back. "Abandoning our members sets a dangerous precedent. We stand by our officers." He forced a judge to kneel on camera in a courtroom. Taylor fires back. "Can't spin that into heroism." A third rep leans forward. "Then we pivot to mental health. Job stress, PTSD. We paint Reeves as a man broken by the weight of service." Taylor shakes his head, grim. The Oversight Committee has his full record, 16 complaints, statistical bias, the whole damn file. If we try to scapegoat stress, they'll dump everything into the open. Silence. Everyone knows the truth. Reeves isn't a lone bad apple. He's a symptom. Across town, Sarah Miller's office is chaos. Phones ring nonstop. Defense attorneys flood the inbox with motions. Her deputy bursts in. We're looking at hundreds of tainted convictions, many minority defendants. Miller rubs her temples, exhaustion carved into her face. Pull every case. Prioritize those still incarcerated. The press is demanding a statement, her assistant says from the doorway. Tell them we're reviewing and committed to justice. Miller snaps, then softens. And get me the Morris file. We're dropping those charges immediately. In the evening, rain lashes against tall windows as Judge Thompson meets with the full Judicial Oversight Committee. 12 judges sit around the long oak table, city lights glowing through the storm. What happened today is appalling, Judge Garcia says, adjusting her glasses. But it's given us leverage for reforms we've been chasing for years. Thompson nods. I don't want just one officer's badge. I want systemic change. Commissioner Davis has agreed to independent reviews of training protocols. Judge Reynolds adds. City councils discussing mandatory body cams with automatic uploads directly to court servers. What about the mayor? Thompson asks. Chief Judge Foster leans forward. She called me personally. The video rattled her. Community leaders are demanding action. She'll back us. Meanwhile, at police headquarters, Commissioner Davis stands before a room of grim-faced captains. Let's be clear, she says. Officer Reeves didn't develop these attitudes in a vacuum. Every supervisor who ignored red flags is under review. Every partner who stayed silent is being questioned. Captain Bennett bristles. With respect, Commissioner, one incident shouldn't tarnish the whole department. This isn't one incident, Davis snaps, projecting graphs onto the screen. Charts of disproportionate stops, searches, and uses of force against minorities. The pattern is undeniable. Judge Thompson's humiliation simply gave the data a face. The room falls uncomfortably silent. At home, Reeves sits slouched in his living room, TV replaying the footage on mute. His phone buzzes nonstop. Reporters, lawyers, old contacts. His few fellow officers come by, fewer than he expected. When his former partner, Officer Wilson, finally arrives, Reeves pours 2 glasses. His voice cracks with anger. They're making me the fall guy for standard procedure. Like you never profiled a suspect. Wilson shifts, uneasy. James EA interviewed me today. They asked about the Martinez arrest last year. Reeves waves him off, so he did everything by the book. Wilson looks down. His voice is quiet, almost apologetic. We both know that's not true. And James, I've got a family. A pension. Reeves stares. Betrayal etched on his face. For the first time, real fear cuts through his bluster. You're throwing me under the bus. Reeves's voice cracks between anger and desperation. Wilson doesn't slow as he grabs his jacket. I'm not going down with you, James, and neither are the others. The door closes softly, but the silence it leaves behind is deafening. Reeves stares at the empty doorway, betrayal cutting deeper than any disciplinary notice. The next morning, Judge Thompson enters a packed courtroom presiding over a special hearing in the Morris case. Sunlight streams through tall windows, slicing across the chamber and making the dust in the air glow like suspended truth. Every bench is filled with reporters with pens poised, community leaders in quiet solidarity, and anxious families who've waited years for justice. In light of new evidence indicating improper search procedures and potentially falsified testimony, Thompson declares. Voice steady but resonant, the charges against Mr. Morris are hereby dismissed. A ripple of gasps sweeps the gallery. At the defense table, Morris, a young black man who has spent months fearing a prison sentence, sits frozen, then weeps openly as his attorney explains he is free. His mother rushes forward, clutching him in her arms, both sobbing as decades of generational weight lift in a single ruling. The sight hits harder than any gavel. Thompson continues, furthermore, I am ordering a comprehensive review of every case involving Officer Reeves where similar procedures were employed. Justice demands no less. Outside, the courthouse steps boil with flashing cameras and shouted questions. Thompson, who has avoided the press until now, steps deliberately toward the microphones. "Judge Thompson, will you pursue personal charges against Officer Reeves?" a reporter shouts. "This is not about me or Officer Reeves," Thompson says firmly. "It is about equal justice under law. The system failed not only in this case, but in hundreds of others now under review." Another voice cuts in. "But do you forgive him for what he did to you?" Thompson pauses, scanning the sea of expectant faces. Forgiveness isn't the point. Accountability is. And not just for one officer, but for a system that enabled abuse unchecked for years. The following week brings a cascade of changes. Police headquarters rolls out new training protocols. The mayor, under pressure, establishes a civilian oversight board with real enforcement power. Body camera malfunctions, once routine, plummet to nearly zero as officers realize every second is now scrutinized. Prosecutors begin dismissing shaky cases. Judges press harder against uncorroborated police testimony. They are small shifts, but each one feels like tectonic movement. At a crowded town hall, community voices rise cautiously. A black pastor stands, his voice deep and steady. "We've heard promises before," he says, eyes sweeping the room. "But this time feels different, because someone with power finally experienced what our community has lived for generations." The momentum spreads. Thompson's phone buzzes during a press conference. 3 federal judges in other states want to replicate the oversight model. The fire has leaped beyond city borders. And yet across... "How do you plead?" Commissioner Davis asks, voice sharp enough to cut glass. "Not guilty," Reeves replies, though the words come out hollow, stripped of conviction. "Evidence will be presented by Captain Hernandez of Internal Affairs," Davis announces. Captain Hernandez steps forward, tablet in hand, her calm professionalism contrasting sharply with Reeves's unraveling demeanor. She taps the screen, and the wall-sized monitor flickers to life with graphs, heat maps, and charts. In the past 5 years, Hernandez states evenly, Officer Reeves' arrests of minority suspects were 4.3 times more likely to involve use of force than his arrests of white suspects. His evidence submissions in minority cases were 3.7 times more likely to contain irregularities or missing documentation. The numbers hang in the air like an indictment carved in stone. Reeves's attorney rises. "Objection. These statistics lack context. My client worked primarily in high-crime neighborhoods." Hernandez doesn't blink. Even controlling for crime rates and neighborhood demographics, the disparities remain statistically significant. The pattern is unmistakable. The board shifts uncomfortably as courthouse footage begins to play the moment. Reeves shoved Judge Thompson, forcing him to his knees. Gasps ripple through the room, though many have seen the viral clip before. Reeves averts his gaze, jaw clenched, unable to watch himself. When called to explain, Reeves tries to steady his voice. "I saw someone at the defense table I didn't recognize. In today's security environment, I acted instinctively to protect the court." Davis leans forward, by slapping him, by forcing a sitting judge to kneel in his own courtroom. "I perceived potential resistance," Reeves insists. Things escalated quickly. "But there was no racial motivation." Davis flips through her notes, eyes narrowing. "And yet you addressed Judge Thompson with buddy and friend in a condescending manner. You testified under oath that certain groups commit more crimes. Are you denying these statements?" Silence. Reeves's lips press into a thin line. His attorney changes tactics. "My client has an exemplary record, 20 years of getting dangerous criminals off the streets." Davis doesn't raise her voice. "At what cost?" "We have identified 63 cases compromised by misconduct or questionable evidence. 17 individuals have already been released from prison pending review. Entire lives appended because of your shortcuts and bias. The hearing drags for hours. The air grows thick, stale. Water pitchers empty and are refilled." Members of the board exchange quiet whispers, scribbling notes as Reeves shifts uncomfortably, sweat beading at his temple. Finally, Reeves is escorted outside to wait. The hallway hums with hushed conversations. Officers pass by, some glaring, others avoiding his eyes altogether. Reeves stares at the floor, arms folded, trying to ignore the muffled sound of deliberations behind closed doors. When he is recalled, the atmosphere in the chamber has shifted, somber, decisive. Commissioner Davis fixes him with a gaze that brooks no escape. Officer James Reeves, she begins, her tone resolute. This board finds overwhelming evidence of misconduct, bias, and abuse of authority. Effective immediately, your employment with this department is terminated. Your pension is revoked. Criminal charges will be referred to the district attorney's office. Reeves stands stiffly, his face expressionless, though his knuckles whiten as his fists tighten. I served this city for 20 years, he mutters, bitterness creeping through. Davis shakes her head. No. You served yourself while wearing our badge. The gavel falls, not just on a career, but on a culture of impunity. Turn in your gun and shield before leaving the building, Commissioner Davis orders. Reeves places the items down with trembling hands, the badge clinking against the counter like a gravestone marker. For the first time in 20 years, he walks out of headquarters not as an officer, but as a man stripped bare. Outside, chaos waits. Reporters swarm him, camera flashes exploding like artillery fire, microphones jab toward his mouth, each voice barking questions, accusations, demands. He shields his eyes, his jaw set, but the wall of noise drowns him. Above, in the windows of headquarters, his former colleagues watch. Some faces burn with disgust, others with pity, none with solidarity. Inside, a rookie officer whispers, "Is this really fair?" One mistake, and his whole career is erased. The sergeant doesn't hesitate. Her voice cuts through the locker room air. That wasn't one mistake. It was the one time he got caught. As Reeves pushes through the crowd, a hand grips his shoulder. He turns sharply, ready to snap, only to see the face of a man he arrested 3 years ago. A man who spent months behind bars, now exonerated. His eyes bore into Reeves with quiet fury. Reeves opens his mouth to speak, but no words come. The man simply shakes his head and walks away. 3 months later, Judge Thompson steps onto the grand stage of the National Conference of State Courts. The auditorium is vast, hundreds of judges, law enforcement officials, legislators, and press packed into neat rows. Soft amber lighting bathes the chamber, the air thick with expectation. Thompson's voice rings out, steady and commanding. The Reeves incident wasn't just about one officer. It exposed fault lines running through our entire justice system. Fault lines we can no longer afford to ignore. The room falls utterly silent. He clicks to the first slide clean. Authoritative graphics flash across the towering screen. Mandatory body cameras with tamper-proof tech. Bias audits using statistical analysis of arrest records. Civilian oversight boards with enforcement power. New training protocols rooted in de-escalation and cultural awareness. In just 90 days, Thompson continues, excessive force complaints have dropped 42%. Conviction rates remain stable. Proof that we can achieve effective policing without discrimination. Applause ripples across the audience. Commissioner Davis nods, her eyes fierce with conviction. Next to her sits Sarah Miller, recently elevated to head a new civil rights division within the DA's office. Thompson acknowledges them both with a subtle nod. These reforms worked because leaders across agencies committed to real change. No more silos. No more hiding misconduct behind a blue wall. No more protecting our own at the expense of justice. That same week, at the Police Academy graduation, a new class of officers raises their right hands to take the oath. For the first time, the words explicitly include equal treatment regardless of race, gender, or economic status. Commissioner Davis shakes each hand firmly, meeting each young officer's eyes. You're entering law enforcement at a pivotal moment, she says. The old ways are dying. We'll decide if the new ways survive. The curriculum now includes sessions led by men and women once wrongfully imprisoned, standing before cadets, sharing how bias shattered their lives. The stories hit harder than any textbook. At first, veteran officers scoffed. They rolled their eyes at reforms, muttered about soft policing, but then the results spoke louder. Complaints plummeted, trust grew. Communities started talking to cops again. And the most miraculous number of all, body camera malfunctions dropped to almost zero. Suddenly, when footage went straight to secure servers and officers couldn't edit their own reports, the broken tech seemed to fix itself. Justice wasn't just an idea anymore. It was beginning to look like practice. At the courthouse, Judge Thompson's chambers are never quiet. Young judges now wander in often, seeking his guidance. The civilian walkthrough he once practiced in secret has become policy across the district. Every new judge must feel the courthouse from the eyes of a regular citizen before donning their robes. What began as one man's quiet habit is now reshaping an entire system. The numbers tell a stark story. 97 wrongful convictions overturned. Dozens more under review, and a city-funded compensation program already paying out 2 men and women once forgotten in prison cells. But progress, Thompson knows, is not universally loved. A vocal minority of officers resign in protest, and a few older judges sneer at the new accountability measures. Yet public support swells especially, in neighborhoods long taught not to trust a badge or a gavel. At a community center in the city's black neighborhood, officers and residents sit across folding tables at a tense but respectful town hall. No shouting, no chaos, just cautious dialogue. The walls that once seemed immovable are beginning, inch by inch, to crack. As Thompson leaves that evening, his phone buzzes. The governor's office. Statewide implementation. Immediately, 1 year later, the late afternoon sun slants through Thompson's Venetian blinds, striping his desk in golden shadow. His chambers are quiet when a knock interrupts. "Come in," he calls. Morris enters, the young black man whose wrongful arrest had sparked the chain of events. No longer the frightened defendant, now dressed sharp in a fitted suit, lost textbook under his arm. "Your Honor," Morris says, voice steady, "thank you for seeing me." Thompson smiles, gesturing to a chair. "Mr. Morris, how are the studies?" Challenging, Morris admits with a grin, but rewarding. "I never thought I'd be preparing for law school instead of serving time." "Your experience gives you a perspective most lawyers will never understand," Thompson says. "Use it well. The profession needs you." Morris nods, then leans forward. "Actually, I'm writing a paper on reform. I wanted your perspective. What's really changed in the past year?" Thompson pauses, weighing his answer. "Numbers look good. Arrests are down. Crime is down. Community cooperation is up. But numbers only measure outcomes. What I see is a cultural shift in courtrooms, in testimony, in how defendants are treated. There's more awareness, more accountability. That's what lasts." Morris hesitates at the door before leaving. "Judge, may I ask something personal? That day when Reeves humiliated you, how did you stay calm?" Thompson's eyes darken, his voice quiet. "I've faced discrimination my entire life. Law school, prosecutor's office, even the bench. You learn to hold your dignity like armor. Was I angry? It's furious. But if I'd let anger take the wheel, he'd have one. My job wasn't revenge, it was change." He extends his hand. Morris shakes it firmly. The weight of 2 lives, one scarred, one rising, meets in that grip. Weeks later, at a national police reform conference, Thompson leans into a microphone before a packed hall. Cameras live-streamed to thousands across the country. "The greatest lesson from our district," he says, voice rich with conviction, "is this. Meaningful reform requires every level of justice, prosecutors, judges, communities working together. Alone, none of us can fix it. Together we can." A veteran officer raises a hand. "But how do you get cops with 20 years on the job to change their ways?" "By proving better policing isn't weaker policing," Thompson answers without pause. "When people trust law enforcement, they report crimes. They cooperate. Juries believe them. Trust doesn't soften. Justice sharpens it. A prosecutor rises. What about those who say this is soft on crime?" Thompson clicks to a slide. Conviction stats glowing on the big screen. "Our conviction rate for violent crimes has gone up because our evidence is cleaner, stronger, untainted by bias. We lose fewer cases. We punish the guilty, not the vulnerable." The room breaks into applause. Afterward, in the corridor, a young black officer lingers nervously before approaching. His voice trembles. "Judge Thompson, just wanted to say thank you for showing us it's possible." For the first time that day, Thompson's stern features soften. He places a hand on the young man's shoulder. "Don't thank me," he says. "Prove me right." The young officer's voice carries a rare honesty. "I joined the force to make a difference. But during training, some of the things I saw didn't sit right. Your reforms, they gave me a chance to serve with integrity." Thompson clasps his hand firmly, eyes locking with his. "Remember this, the system doesn't change in bulk. It changes one person at a time. Keep your standards high and demand the same from the man standing next to you. That's how reform survives. As Thompson steps toward the exit, reporters close in. One leans forward, recorder raised. Judge Thompson, after everything you've endured, humiliation, threats, resistance, what would you say to people who witness injustice but feel powerless to act? Thompson pauses. The silence stretches. His gaze hardens, his voice measured but fierce. First, document what you see. Truth leaves a trail. Second, speak up, even when your voice shakes. Silence is complicity. Third, find others. No one changes a system alone. And finally, ever accept the excuse that this is just how things are. Systems are built by people. And what people build, people can rebuild. The cameras flash. The crowd murmurs. Thompson walks away, but his words hang heavy, like scripture carved into stone. Outro Fate Tales hook. That's today's story. If Judge Thompson's fight for justice moved you, show it, smash that like button right now, because when you amplify stories like these, you're not just watching history, you're fueling change. Want more real stories of accountability, justice, and everyday people standing against impossible odds? Subscribe to Fate Tales and tap that notification bell. We drop new stories every week that will leave you shocked, inspired, and empowered. And now we ask you, what would you have done in Judge Thompson's shoes? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Remember this, when power collides with justice, the outcome depends on whether someone is brave enough to stand their ground. At Fate Tales, we don't just tell stories, document battles. We amplify voices, we challenge power. Because silence protects systems, but courage rewrites them.